This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
It's Chaz, and we really want to be your friends. We hope our good times never end. It's Mozz, it's Chaz, and we really want to be your friends. Hey, heroes, welcome once again to the AKA JonesCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozzie, so glad you're back. So glad you really wanted to be, just like all our listeners. Tonight's episode, Season 3, Episode 5, a.k.a. I wish. Teaming up with Trish to stake out Salinger. Jessica makes a startling discovery. Jerry's plot to expose Peter yields unexpected consequences. Our director tonight is Mozz and Mozz. Our writers, of course, we have our Brian Michael Bendis and our Michael Gaydos doing our Marvel work. Jesse Harris, our staff writer, Jay Holtham, gets our written by this week. And then this week's hardest working man in show business, once again, 2 weeks in a row. Jamie King is being our story editor. Melissa Rosenberg, she created all this, so we should give her props too. Okay, yes, Jamie King, friend of the show.
Can't wait.
So we opened up at the end of last episode, and we've got to even mention this because that was actually the reason why it's called Customer Services Standing By, is Jessica reaching out to Trish to say, I need your help. And then we get at the end of we get this Trish showing up. Because at the end of the day, yes, she does need her help because she needs someone who Salinger hasn't anticipated.
Right.
And that is their goal here. They want to get this set up so that they can outsmart Salinger. And it's interesting how it all plays out at the end. But prior to this, we essentially have Trish breaking into Salinger's apartment, if I recall correctly, and finding the photos.
Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, they're on the stakeout. They see him pulling the dresser back to have the photos, so she goes and takes a look at them.
Yes. And then they do, our favorite secretary, what's her name?
Who doesn't need to get paid to hang out with Trish?
Well, no, she likes Trish, you know. She's a nice person. Yeah. Well, you know, although arguably we actually have this question as to how nice is Trish?
Right.
Because she now has power, and you know, it's sort of that question: does power actually corrupt?
Well, maybe it doesn't corrupt in her sense, or maybe it does, but I think it's also, you know, what Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility, and you must recognize that as easy as it is now for you to do regular things, it's just as easy for you to make a mistake, and probably more dangerous. So again, you have to watch that balance too.
Yes, and I think that is what, you know, Jessica is trying to impart. Trish. And of course, you know, with Trish, it is a different it's a different power set. So
right, but how egregious and how arrogant is it of her to try to still have that conversation knowing what she almost just did?
Oh, you mean kill Sal?
Yeah, almost killing Sal, and then she comes over.
Episode, or was that last
episode? I think it's in this episode.
Yeah.
Because then we get the whole story with Barry, and he finally has or maybe it was last episode. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it all blends together. But the point is that when she goes to, she actually saves Eric. Actually, I think he kind of actually does get out on his own.
No. Well, it's only because the tool that led to his freedom was dropped in the pool by Trish knocking that guy into the pool.
Yes. So there we go. So it is that idea that, yeah, and in the mess, she accidentally kills a hardened criminal, or doesn't actually kill. She actually severely wounds.
Yeah, horribly maims.
Well, yeah, she's stabilized. That's what we know. And not for nothing, it's not like that woman was running a 10K anyway.
No.
I'm gonna be rude about it. Yeah, let's be honest here. She was, she's probably already living a kind of sedentary lifestyle. The fact that she has to lie in bed, to yell at people for a couple of months maybe isn't her worst day.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of lying in bed, that was the other thing we didn't talk about last episode was the consultant for Hogard about fitting her apartment for the inevitable. And I think that is a big part of why she doubled down on everything she was doing.
Interesting.
And why she probably feels way less remorse when she actually goes in and gives Malcolm the key to release the very weaponized information that he has tracked down. This is one of these episodes where there's a lot of emotional stakes. There's very little really punching. This is a very emotional episode. Although it ends with some punching, which we'll get to in a bit. But the crux of it is that Jessica and Trish know they have a monster.
Right.
But they really don't have a way to catch him because, as she says, look, he has a degree in law too. Again, I think a fake degree, but still, impressive enough to hang on his wall. And he is, you can't just coerce this stuff out of him. You can't force him to testify. You need to get this evidence. And they do recognize that he has the I don't know what you call those things, but the vapor suck bag system, and they realized that would be a great way to store body parts if you wanted to keep body parts.
Yeah, and it's funny when Jessica goes into his closet, she sees all those outfits in those vacuum seal bags too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very interesting. It's one of these things where you wonder, is he planting clues for Jessica to lead her on a wild goose chase?
Ooh.
Are these meant to be red herrings, or are they? It is herring, not heron.
Right.
There's so much debate on that question. That's one of those very.
Really?
Oh yeah, because red herring sounds like it is a mangling of it because it's a herring and it's red. And and everyone thinks no, it's supposed to be red heron because a heron is a bird and it's that much more literary. But actually, it is a red herring because as it turns out, this idea that to throw dogs off of your scent when you were running from the law, it was a thing to throw, pickled fish, which often turned red in the pickling juice away from your trail, so the dogs go, ooh, well, that guy's there, but oh, hey, there's some fish over here. Let's go get some fish.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. I never knew that's where it came from.
That's one story I've heard. I haven't heard a legitimate argument for why a red heron is a misleading clue.
Well, I think that's just because people aren't very smart these days. People spell could've as COULD space OF, and it annoys me to no end.
Yes, but the idea actually there is that the red heron is arguably the reason why people might think it is red heron and not red herring is that a herring, let's face it, it's a comedy fish, and a heron is a graceful bird that might lead you astray
I think you're giving people too much credit. I don't think people are making a dumb decision for a smart reason.
First off, I think people make dumb decisions for smart reasons all the time. One of my favorite things is collecting logical, etymological reasons for misstatements. Like when people say, you can't take it for granted.
Oh God.
Oh, I love that, because if someone asks you, say, yeah, you can't take it for granted. You can't say it's set in stone, because it's not. It's not granite. Don't take it as granite. It's it makes sense to me, and I love that kind of etymological play, because what they do is they have a word and then they create the etymology to explain the word. So
that is interesting.
I love that kind of stuff, and which is why I never mind when people say taking it for granted, or they're casting a red herring.
If the person was actually able to explain a logical reason for it, faulty as it may be, I'd accept it. But I don't think people even have that. I mean, maybe I just don't have very much faith in people being smart.
Well, I guess I move in a lot of circles where people usually can do that. I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I don't know. I'm holding my hands up, and you can't see that on the podcast. So I try not to judge people too harshly.
All right, I probably shouldn't either.
Well, you can. Mozz, you should judge everyone as harsh as you so desire. You should never feel shame for holding someone else to a high standard, so long as you hold yourself to the same high standard. And that, I think, is, again, where we're going to see Salinger fall apart, is I think he is so certain of his own intellect. And again, like I said, to me, that is what is beautiful about the Red Heron, is that it is about being so certain in your own intellect to say, oh, it must be heron, because that's the more fancy word and the more literary reference, and I'm sure it exists somewhere, so I'm going to say it's a red heron, not a red herring. Hey, people make all kinds of arguments. Is this the episode where we get Kith and Hogarth at the symphony?
I think that's how the last episode started, and that's what set her on the path to give Malcolm the key, because she realized she couldn't really have Kith in the way that she wanted.
So, kids, I do apologize. We do jump back and forth a bit with these shows. But yes, in that moment, she, because of course, what's his name? Peter shows, he basically calls Kith and cockblocks Hogarth, and that's what has her push the button. But now we actually get to find out what the whole story is. And what was revealed was that he was stealing the money from his charity, and he decides to do this very public suicide in a bathtub, where he accuses Jerry Hogarth of destroying his life with his superpowered friends, which and this is what I think is so, there is a lot of talk about this season being very much about toxic masculinity, because at no point does he excuse his own bad behavior.
Right.
He simply wants to say, you guys wouldn't know about my bad behavior if it wasn't for this awful lady. That this awful lady goes around telling everyone how bad I am, and you shouldn't be talking about that. Let's talk about how bad that lady was.
Yeah, but I also love that it's not like a heavy-handed thing, that they do balance it out by saying, yeah, Hogarth's not a nice lady at all either. And that they are really the same as each other, and they're pointing out the faults in each other simply because they recognize them, because they are them.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think there's truth to that. And, I mean, there's, I don't know if Hogarth would kill herself for a point.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, maybe she isn't as self-destructive, but maybe she would be if that was her last resort.
Well, but you can also argue that that guy had several more resorts available to him, but he was. My take in that he was always a weak character. He was never up to Hogarth. he wasn't going to win that fight, you know.
No.
And any attempt he tried to make to you know, dominate Hogarth in that arena was just going to end poorly for him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that, you know, Hogarth always had the keys, always was going to win. I think mostly, and really mostly, if you can make an argument on it, it's like because the guy intentionally calls his wife when he knows she's on a date. Just to that's what triggers. The guy is his own undoing.
Interesting.
You know, that had he not done that, had he not antagonized her in that moment, she probably would have just, you know, she probably would have been happy to just, you know, play the long con, you know? And the
Maybe.
guy knows what he did, you know, much like when Eric says, you know, I just sent him a note, says, I know what you did, give me money. And they give me money, you know?
Right.
Because he knows what he did. He knew that all of this was there, and he knows who he's up against.
Right.
And, you know, but he thinks he's invincible, you know? Because his wife lets him shoot up grad students, you know? And it don't always work that way, Bunky. That's the moral of that story.
Mm.
So, we do have some forward momentum with the plot here of, well, they are building up the case against Salinger. They know he's a killer. They know who his victims are because they're in the book, and they do track. They do try to figure out how to catch him.
Right, and I love that and as headstrong as Trish was, she did have a plan. She's like, all the security cameras. Like, fine, I'll just cut the power.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, not for nothing, you know, they do think ahead and they do get to where they need to get to. Unfortunately, where they wind up getting to is a big abandoned
Rail yard.
Well, I mean, I'm sure the rail yard's not abandoned.
Oh.
Because
I see what you mean.
Yard.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know, it's like it's a rail yard. It's so active, but there's, you know, probably what it is. I mean, if you really want to, I was actually thinking about this. Like, he must have bought a disused, and he's paying the demurrage on it just to hold it. You know?
Right, but then like he must have, because I was thinking along the same lines, like, but that would be traceable. So either he bought it under someone else's name, or someone he killed used to own it.
Something like that, or you know, honestly, or he's just paying someone off at the thing, or you know, it's like several shell companies that do a thing, and like he made, or it's just something he knows is kind of, you know, in a static state. It's not in use, but it's also put aside. You know, there's, you know, and I'm sure there are materials like that, or it just helps the story that he had one. You know. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Because not for nothing, even if he owns it, because well, no, I just have it there because it's an asset, and you know, it's a placeholder on my dock space or something. You know, I don't know how this all works, but it's entirely possible that that's a reasonable argument. Which is why it's sitting there and not moving anywhere.
Right.
And you know, he does manage to get the drop on Jessica when she goes into it and finds all of the body parts, and then he essentially locks her in. Now, there's a part of me that's like, you know, because she starts trying to smash through the walls. I kind of wonder if it wouldn't have been easier just to go up to the top and try to punch out the door.
She does that first, doesn't she?
Does she?
I think she did that first and recognized that it wasn't budging. Or I don't know if she tried to punch it, but she tried to force her way opening it. And then
maybe the ladder couldn't hold it. You know, that's always that thing with physics. You know, it's like, you know, you can push against the door, and you might be able to push against the door if you were on the floor, but on the ladder might not hold the force. You know, the ladder is the weaker point than the hatch.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
she tries busting through the wall, and it does go on for quite a bit. Quite a
Yeah.
bit. And Patsy does, confront Salinger, and he basically says she's got, this much time left.
Yeah.
And she has to make a decision, and, as she says to Jessica, I chose you,
Yeah.
did he get away? It's like, well, enough of it. It's not like he has very far to go.
And they have all the evidence that they need. I mean, the bodies are
In theory,
there. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
In theory, yeah. That's
I
but
don't
of
know.
course,
I don't know if he can go back to his apartment or he's got to skip town.
yes. Well, but this comes to that question of red herrings.
Mm, mm,
Was
mm.
this something they found, or was this something that they were led to?
Right, right. Are they all mannequins in there?
Anything is possible at this point until you watch the next episode.
Yeah.
But
I do wish
yeah.
we would have gotten a scene with Trish and her morgue friend again.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we do get him eventually. I think.
Okay, no, because she has to borrow the dead arm from somewhere, and she says, Trish, I'm going to need your help, but it's going to be in talking to your morgue friend. She's like, oh, I forget what his name is, and she's like, yeah. So I thought we would get another cool, scene with the two of them, and what does she have to give him now?
Oh yeah.
That would have been cool.
Well, I don't know, Tristan. 1 second. No, if you alter with the past, according to Endgame, you won't disappear because you're in your own. Because your timeline is a closed loop around yourself. It's not a alternate timeline in the past or the future. But I'm moving right along. Um, yeah, yes. So, and see, I'd forgotten that's how they actually lure him to go to the place to find out where he's hiding the body. So
Mm.
show is like, oh, this, but then, he had apparently outsmarted them again, or maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. We don't know yet.
Yeah, it
Um,
just seems silly because if someone's onto you already and they've got it, why would you take it right back? It seemed a little like not so smart for a guy that is so smart.
well, except that he knows how much air is in the container, and I think that because I'm sure that's a fuel tanker, I'm sure that there were a lot of fumes in there as well, so the amount of oxygen is even less. We can see that there is clearly some kind of liquid left in there.
Right.
So it's entirely possible that it is, in fact, a gigantic, gas chamber. That once you close that door and there's no new oxygen coming in, that is a gas. Have an orange. The kids like the pink lemonade. I want them to drink the oranges because we have them.
Mm.
I'll just drink my water.
Fine, drink the water. It's better for you.
Good for you.
Yes, well, my kids do drink a lot of water. Hopefully there's no lead in it. Anyway, moving right along. But this is where we do get the I wish.
Mm.
Trish telling Jessica that she wishes that it could have been different.
Right. I mean, it's a beginning, at least, to say, I'm at fault as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly, because she is at fault as well.
Right.
And she does know this. She does know, she took someone away from Jessica that she wanted in her life. And, it's one of these things like, yeah, your mom was a murderer, but she's still your mom. And, for what it's worth, Trish has a very hard relationship with her mom. But if Jessica ever killed her mom,
Right.
Trish would not be cool with that.
No. And the one thing that she's still refusing to admit is that it had so much to do with her ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because...
And it wasn't as altruistic as she tries to make it out to be.
I mean, I think there is a six of one, half a dozen of another with that, because it's like, it's one of these things where, like, I'm a big fan of Superior Spider-Man, which is, Otto Octavius right now, as the who is now training to be a superhero as his own Spider-Man in San Francisco. And, it's a really great story. It's really a lot of fun. And it is this fact that he is, at his core, still kind of a sociopathic guy. But at the same time, he wants to do good. And he's always saying, look, it is, the good of the many over the good of the few. And, I don't want to have to be bound down by these worries of what I can't do. I need to accomplish what I need to do. And it's for the best because at the end of the day, yes, it's Jessica's mother, and yes, she loves her and she's building this relationship with her, and maybe they can be heroes in their own weird, crazy way together. But at the same time, she has murdered many people. She has, you know, might yet kill Jessica because who knows when she has a moment and loses control. And the argument that she had to be killed because no prison can hold her, arguably, which isn't necessarily true, but at the same time, even then, maybe it's a mercy to kill her rather than let her be subjected to what she was dealing with. When you look at the state of superhuman prisons, it's
But
not an
I
easy
think
answer.
the point is all those arguments and those conversations, even with yourself, are muted because you're so overpowered by the pull of your ego to become the hero, and you can't allow yourself to ask yourself those questions because you're so blinded by the possibility of what you could be.
This is true too, and of course, the irony is, it is those very questions that make you the hero.
Right,
That
exactly.
if you're not willing to question your motivation, you can't ever truly be the hero.
Right, and I feel like so far all these episodes she's had this like desperate and crazy look in her eyes, and she plays it so well. The actress plays it so well, and I think it's stemming from the fight inside of her mind about knowing she's wrong and trying to find some justification for why she isn't.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this much. I am really hoping we get Rachel Taylor in the larger MCU after this is all said and done. We have seen that Cottonmouth is back in the MCU.
Ooh-wee.
He's gonna be our new Blade. He's our new Blade.
Which doesn't it sort of almost put the kibosh on any of these other characters reprising their roles if they're willing to sort of negate the existence of that universe by creating a character that we all know already as someone else?
Well, I'm going to tell you my big fan theory. I actually think they're going to bring Chris Evans back as the Human Torch.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Why?
Because he's still under contract. He blew his contract with Disney. They went through his contract with Disney, but he's actually still technically under contract with Fox for at least one more Fantastic Four film. So it is entirely, and if they decide they want to do the older Fantastic Four, which is something they've said that they want to go with an older Fantastic Four, kind of suggesting that the Fantastic Four actually has been around for a while, but that they've just sort of been off-world, in hiding, stuck in the negative zone, what have you. And to me, the idea that they might just bring back that original FF crew with Chiklis and Elba and I forget who played Reed Richards, but he was good too. To be the MCU's Fantastic Four as the original Fantastic Four,
right,
and bring Chris Evans in as the Human Torch.
I hate that idea. I hate that idea. That's so terrible.
Oh, okay.
I just like, I don't know. We love Cap so much that you can't just supplant it as. I think that I would really hate that.
Yeah, if nothing else, maybe they can use that as leverage with Chris Evans to get him to do more old man Cap.
Yeah, so, I mean, although all of this is negated when you think about J.K. Simmons coming back as Mr. Jameson.
Yes, it's J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, exactly, and that's what kind of made me think.
Yeah, nothing's off the table.
Yeah, and for Blade at issue, the character he had played in the Netflix universe was dead. So he was free within that context to go play a new character. So I have no problem necessarily with, I don't think that negates the idea of Kristen Ritter coming back as Jessica Jones,
Yeah, maybe not.
as Rachel Taylor coming back as Trish Walker. In fact, I think that in many ways it almost speaks to it. Because the truth be told, the reason they had him be Blade is because he actually just said, "I'd like to be Blade." They said, "Okay, we'll write a film for that." He's gotten, that's the thing. You get an Oscar and you go to Marvel and you say, "I'd like to do a movie with you." It's great. Who do you want to be? And so, "Well, I'd like to be Blade." He said, "Okay, we'll write that." Because you got an Oscar. You clearly have chops, and you're clearly a marketable commodity, and we already have a relationship with you. So sure, why wouldn't we? People want to do another Blade. Everyone loves Blade. He's very strangely popular.
Mm.
He's the African American Vipamric Wolverine,
Mm.
and all the kids today love him. So why not? Let's bring Blade back.
Yeah, and it was a badass character, and I loved all those movies. I really, really did.
I did too. Honestly, I did see all three Blade movies. I did not watch the series though.
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if it was good or bad. Just
No,
no, I didn't.
I saw the first couple of episodes, and it was not good. It was not good. It really felt like we used to go to the store and you'd find the WWF action figures, and then you'd find the fake ones that would combine two characters to make one, like Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan would be one figure. It's like that's what it felt like.
Okay. Well, good to know. Well, so I will say that is bullet dodged. Okay. So I do want to get to the final thing here is that we do have a great end cap on this episode. After, Trish saves Jessica and they have their little heartfelt moment, we actually see Eric.
This bothered me to no end.
This bothered you to no end.
Right. Because, he walks in and he gets a bad headache and doesn't think twice about it. He's like, oh, must just be another headache. Not like, oh, evil is really close to me. He's completely oblivious and he just walks in and gets taken by surprise. Especially, I'd imagine if you just had a near-death experience, your nerves would be so frayed that the slightest little thing would set it off. But then again, he did get drowned in the beginning of last episode, so maybe this is an everyday occurrence for him.
That's kind of maybe the thing. Oh, by the way, I did forget, we've got to mention his sister.
Oh.
Who we met this episode.
Poor Barry.
Poor Barry. But, that actually, see, that's the thing, is Barry kind of feeds into my theory of that this is their sort of poor man's Hellstrom.
Mm.
Because he also has a sister named Satana who is a redhead. And it's like, oh, is there something more here? But we'll never know.
But, maybe we will. Maybe that's a question we can ask Mr. Jamie King, and he can elucidate how many secret characters that they sort of allude to that might be something, Or maybe we're not able to. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He was very look, I got all kinds of, NCDs that I signed.
Right. All right.
I'm no Tom Holland here. I can't get away with it. Holland, if you're a Hollander, you're a Rufo. You're like, yeah, then we all do this.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what? No, they didn't say that. But.
Well, I guess maybe there's a safe way to ask the question, as if to say, hey, was this character inspired by this narrative or this story? Not necessarily this character, and if it doesn't necessarily point to it, maybe we'll be safe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll talk, we will discuss it. We'll see what the conversation will be. It's going to be fun to go listen for it, guys. It's coming up. We're going to record it in a couple weeks. Jamie King, hardest working man in show business, working on both of these Jessica Jones episodes, episode 4 and episode 5, and we'll see how many more he does in the future, especially after he talks to us. But yeah, no, Salinger does take out Eric, and the thing about it is yeah, he has the headache, but then again, we don't even know if Eric's even really that good of a fighter.
That's true.
He's gotten by a lot on his good looks and his witty charm, and he gets he does get choked out by this guy, and we're gonna have to find out why all that happens next week.
Yeah, he does seem more of a lover than a fighter.
Yeah, well, I cannot argue. So was Herman Munster. Okay, Mozz, in the meantime, if people would like to talk to you about loving or fighting or how their moral compasses can be properly calibrated, how can they find
Well, I don't know if I'd be an arbiter for that, but hey, welcome to the conversation. But if they would like to have that conversation, they can find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor or email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old fashioned email way. We are Omas and our Opas, grandmas and our grandpas, our Tias and our Tamaras, once dead.
Our pappies and our mammies.
Our pappies and our mammies at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, hey guys, why don't you follow me on Twitter? Because I live tweet things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like Cloak and Dagger, like The Orville, except now it's on Hulu. But anyway, follow me @CharlieEsser. That's CHARLIEESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Ping!
And there we go. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this has been one more episode of the AKA JonesCast. And we're just so happy you all decided to be our friends. Good night.